important to you, you have to do it without even knowing what the results are going to be. You have to be fearless. You have to jump in. I remember just recently, and sometimes you fail. Last year, I brought the kink to Atlanta, right? And I remember, I was scared. I didn't know anybody in Atlanta. And so I said, okay, we're going to start in a small theater, right? And I'm going to give you this example, because I want you to see, sometimes you can be fearless, and sometimes you can fall flat on your face, but you learn a lot, right? So I'm going to tell you guys this story. So I went, and I was like, we're going to start in a small theater, because we don't know Atlanta, you know. I said, let's just start small. I said, we're going to do a 200-seat theater. So I said, okay, that's a small little theater, we'll just try there. Let's do 200 seats. Then, I got advisors from Atlanta, right? And I didn't listen to my gut, right? Because those advisors then said to me, oh, well, girl, you don't know about Atlanta. Atlanta, we do it big, girl. We do it big in Atlanta. This is your first time in Atlanta. You got to let people know what's up, girl. You got to know what's up. And they were like, oh, you got to do a big show in Atlanta, girl. You can't just do no little 200-seat theater, girl. No, girl. You got to do it big. Show out, girl. Show out. So I got carried away in the show out, girl. Show out. Because people were like, hey, you big, man. You Trey Anthony, man. Show out. So I was like, yeah, I got to show out, right? So all of a sudden, I went from this 200-seat theater to all of a sudden I was signing this contract for a 2,500-seat theater. Yeah. Because sometimes your ego can get in the way of your judgment, right? Even though everything in me was like, this ain't good, Trey, this ain't good, right? But I was listening to everybody. It's like, show out, girl, show out. So we had Angie Stone in the play. We had Melanie, Fiona, because people were like, you gotta get some big stars, girl. You gotta get some big stars. Show out, girl, show out. So I got all these big names. And the budget just kept going higher and higher and higher and higher, right? And I was putting money and money and money, but I was like, I'm in Atlanta, right? My ego was talking too, because I was like, oh, Trey Anthony, man, come on, you're in Atlanta. And the first night, the show was great, sold out, did well. And then the second, third, fourth night, probably about 40% of the theater was packed. And all my advisors, all of a sudden, no one was around to advise me on what to do with an empty theater, right? I ended up losing over $90,000 in that show. $90,000, hear me, right? And the lesson I learned from that is you know yourself, right? You know your gut. And yes, it's good to dream big. And yes, it's good to go outside your comfort zone, but you don't need advisors on your own life, right? And I remember just thinking that was a learning lesson, but the one thing that I learned from there, I said, you know what, Trey, though? But you took the step to go to the American market. And I said, now you know what not to do, right? Because now I'm planning a kink tour, and we're in America, and every single theater we're doing is under 200 seats, right? Under 200 seats. And people will call me like, oh, Trey's the king, man, you should be. And I'm like, no, we good. 200 seats, we good. Right? So sometimes you can do stuff and you're fearless and you fail, but that's okay. Because you can then pick yourself up and do something different, right? You know now what not to do, right? And I think that was a really valuable lesson for me because I said I got carried up in my own hype, right? People were like, you're Trey Anthony. I'm like, yeah, girl, I'm Trey Anthony, right? I don't do stuff like that. I'm down to earth. I don't need that kind of stuff. I listen to the hype, right? The other thing, dream beyond your circumstances. Dream beyond your circumstances. Never ever think that you can't do something. Never think because I am who I am, this ain't good enough for me. People like me don't do that kind of thing. And I'm going to give you guys an example now. Who here thinks they may be a bit too old to live their dream? That time's kind of up for them. Anybody here who thinks it kind of, no? Okay, sir, I got something for you guys. I got something for you guys, right? So I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, right? Let me tell you how I'm a little hypocrite. 5 years ago, my 85-year-old grandma, right? Grandma, after she gotten over the shock that she's a gaze, right? After she got over that shock, Grandma started coming out to like every show. My grandmother loves the show. My grandmother loves me. My grandmother started, and my grandmother would go to, when it was at the Princess of Wales Theatre, my grandmother would sit in the front row, and it was like 5 nights a week. And my grandmother would be sitting in the front row, right? And anytime the actors did something wrong, right? Or missed the line, my grandmother would be like, That's not how it goes. That's not how it goes. Trey, that's not how it goes. You're doing wrong. You're doing wrong. And I'd be like, Grandma, like, you know, this is a commercial theater. You can't do that. Grandma, you can't do that. You can't yell out to the theater. You can't tell Grandma. Grandma would be sitting in the front row every single night for 5 months, right? So anyways, Grandma loves theater. She loves acting. She loves everything. So 5 years ago, Grandma at 85 came up to me. Grandma said, Trey, Grandma has a dream. And this is where I'm a hypocrite, right? Because I'm telling you guys with your dreams. I wanted to show you how I could be a hypocrite. So Grandma goes, Trey, Grandma has a dream, man. Right? Sometimes my grandmother likes to think she's American. I don't know where this comes in. But she likes to do this, man! And I'm like, Grandma, don't do man, don't do man. You're not supposed to do man, right? But Grandma does actually say, Grandma has a dream, man! She said, Trey, Grandma wants to be a rapper. And I remember looking at Grandma, because I was like, Grandma's 85, Brethren, 85. And I didn't say, Grandma, go for it! I put Grandma in a box, right? Because sometimes you have to be careful of who you tell your dreams to, because they put you in a box, right? And I remember going to Grandma, I said, Grandma, kind of think your time has passed. You know, come out to my show, sit down, support me, but Grandma, no, right? And Grandma said, no, Trey. And I was like, no, Grandma, you're not Drake, you're not Jay-Z, you can't do this, right? I thought Grandma should be doing grandma things like knitting, watching Young and the Restless, put Grandma in a little grandma box, right? But Grandma did not listen to me. This is a true story. You guys can look this up, right? True story. Grandma took her pension money, right? And Grandma went into the studio. Hear me, right? And Grandma recorded a song. And Grandma then put it on a CD, right? And I still wasn't a believer, right? And then one day my brother called me and he goes, Trey, I'm in the barber shop, guy. Guess who's in the barber shop? Grandma is selling her CD for $10 a pop. Grandma had one song on the CD, one song. People were buying it. Then Grandma said to me, Trey, I need to do a video, man. I want to be on YouTube. Grandma, slow down, Bridget, slow down. But Grandma then got like this crew. Grandma recorded a video. You guys think I'm joking, okay? You guys are young. You know what I'm talking about. But Grandma had her video up on YouTube, right? Granny's Inspiration, right? You guys can, I'm telling you, I brought the clip here, but because we had a little technical difficulties. But look on YouTube, you'll see my grandma's video. And then Grandma wouldn't stop there. For some of you England folks, you'll know this story here. Grandma went to England, right? So my grandma has ties there. And my grandma loves this show called The Trisha Show, right? Which is similar to the Oprah Winfrey Show, right? She's the equivalent of Oprah in England. And Grandma went down to The Trisha Show, and Grandma saw a security guard at The Trisha Show, and she said, I'm here to see Trisha, man. I tell you, sometimes she drops American, I don't know why, right? And the security guard looked at my grandma and was like, sorry? And she goes, I want to tell Trisha about my CD, right? And the security guard kind of shut Grandma down, right? He kind of was like, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. And he said, okay, I'll take this CD from you, right? But I think he thought Grandma was a little nuts, right? And he took the CD, and the security guard listened to the song in his car. He was so impressed with my grandma's tenacity, right? That he then went and told one of the producers of The Trisha Show, right? The producer of The Trisha Show listened to it, and then she called my grandma to come on the show. 85 years old. Grandma was on The Trisha Show, right? Talking about her career, right? Right? Big career, right? And people loved Grandma so much that not only did they invite her on The Trisha Show, they then invited her back to be like a guest, like a contributing guest. So my grandma would be there, and they'd be like, oh, Trisha, my husband's cheating on me. And they'd be like, Grandma, what do you think? And my grandma would be like, you need to after that, my grandmother got diagnosed with stomach cancer, right? Stomach cancer. And she was doing chemo, and she was doing radiation. And one thing about my grandmother's always been like a feisty woman, like, you know, like just in there, like always doing her thing. And when she started to do the chemo, like anybody here ever had like a family member with cancer, you know, it can just kind of reduce you, right? And she lost all of this weight. My grandmother was like, she was a big woman, and my grandmother dropped down to about like 90 pounds, right? Like little, tiny. And she refused afterwards to go for the chemo. And I remember everybody except me in there, because they know that me and my grandmother are like this, and they're like, tell her she's got to go for the chemo. She's got to go. She's got to go. And my grandmother refused. And I went, Grandma, you got to go, man, because you got to live. And I will always remember this. She turned to me and she said, Trey, I'm done. And she said, you know why? She said, because I've lived my life. She goes, I've done everything in my life that I was supposed to do. She said, you guys said I couldn't be a rapper. I did it. You guys said I couldn't be on TV. I did it. She said I was in the newspaper. I did it. I'm on